Welcome, I'm the Deadwood Jedi. This is another Raid Shadow Legends video. I'm currently in the test server, so I'm having the opportunity to be able to test some teams that I normally wouldn't be able to build on my own account. This one is probably the most basic team I've ever done. It's all rare champions. We're going to use that Cagebreaker Lizardman guy as one of the champions in this, just so I can kind of show him off, but that's not really the point of this video. The point of this video is just kind of to show, hey, this is a Nightmare clan boss team you can build. With all rare champions. I try to limit the gear numbers, so keep them as low as possible to kind of simulate what you guys can do. So not really crazy numbers on any of these champions. They still might be higher than what some of you guys out there can do, but hopefully this gives you some ideas on how to build a team. I don't have any of the big debuffs, right? Anything that I'm landing is going to be the small, but pretty much. I can show you the team that I'm going to be using, and that should clarify a lot of what I'm trying to get across here. The idea is, though, that we're going to be able to speed tune a Nightmare team and get a solid result, not having crazy champions, not having crazy gear. And this is one of the advantages of speed tuning in general. We're going to be doing a 4:3 ratio team. So it's not a super crazy 2:1 ratio team. We're not using crazy speed champions. This is about as basic as you can get. Everybody is in lifesteal gear. I don't even have a healer on this team. So we're going back like 2 years in time and seeing, hey, how effective were those teams back then, even if we're bringing them in right now with the champions that we have available. So I'm excited about this. I think this is going to be a fun little experiment. I haven't even run this team. Might be horrible results. I really don't know, but my optimism, my goal here is to try to get a team that can do pretty close to 2 key damage on Nightmare, or at least do a pretty decent 3 key damage, hopefully between that, 15 and 20 million amount, because this is the important part. If you can make this team do that kind of damage, imagine what happens when we start bringing in top tier epics, top tier legendaries, champions like Rosin, who's free to play available, champions like Sepulchre Sentinel, all sorts of different champions that we can bring in that are just going to up our damage numbers, up our survivability, and make us a much better team going forward. So the big purpose here is we're going to explain that 4:3 ratio team, kind of break down how this works, why it works, the kind of champions we want to use in these spots, and I'm going to try and give you guys some options as far as other champions you can use instead of the ones that I'm using. So if you do have these top tier champions, you can bring them in and know exactly where they're going to fit into your team and how to make that work. But as always, whenever you're building a clan boss team, it's not just about one champion, it's not just about 2 champions, it's about all 5 of them working together in tandem, and that's really, really important. So keeping that in mind, understanding how you're going to build your team is crucial to being successful at clan boss, regardless of the difficulty. So that said, let's go ahead and look at the champions. Before I get into it too much, I do want to let you guys know, if you would like account help on your personal account, hit up my Patreon. There are links in the pinned description and the pinned comment in description of this video. Also, I want to say, if you like today's music, I get all my music from Soundstripe. There's links down in the pinned comment description of this video. It's a service where if you need copyright-free music or royalty-approved music, that's the place you can go. I use it a lot for my stuff, so if you do any kind of copyrighted content, whether that's YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, anything like that, this is a great place to do it without having to worry about getting copyright strike, Twitch, all that stuff. Anyhow, let's get into the team. I'm going to look at the champions so you understand who we're bringing in, why we're bringing them in, and then we'll do the run and see how it turns out. Like I said, this is the team we're going to be using. We've got Bulwark as our lead here. We've got Frozen Banshee. We've got Grave Chill Killer. We've got, gosh, what's his name? Seducer in here, as well as Cagebreaker. I really like this team. I think it's kind of a cool little setup. As far as how it's set up and the skill priorities that we're using, I tried my best just to get it to work on auto. That's just not going to be the case. I'm going to have to set it up for the first cycle, but we've got Frozen Banshee, obviously is doing our poisons for us, poison sensitivity. Grave Chill Killer is helping with that. Also going to give us that decreased defense, which is always key to getting the most damage out of things. Then we have Bulwark, and Bulwark's going to bring us that weaken debuff in addition to the HP burn. And we can, especially at the, I mean, this is something you guys might not know, but when you're doing Nightmare, weaken debuff and decreased defense are about equal in how much they're going to affect the damage your team does. If you're doing anything earlier than Nightmare, weaken is actually a more powerful debuff for you. Because the clan boss has such little defense, the decreased defense debuff has a lot less impact. So just kind of keep that in mind as something, but they're both great to bring in for your team. We also have Seducer, and Seducer is going to be doing two things for us. Decrease attack, as well as giving us an increased defense buff, the small one, and giving us block debuff, so we can stay affinity friendly. Obviously, this is up against Void. I don't have to worry about affinity, but it's always nice when you do. So that can really make, especially when you're doing 2 or 3 keys, you're trying to take it down, affinity is going to play a major factor. So having someone that can block those debuffs is great, and Seducer is one of the best at it. We also have Cagebound here, who also brings a decreased attack debuff and an ally protection with an increased defense buff. This is one of those new rares. I really like him a lot. Definitely somebody to kind of keep in mind. He's not great. All the numbers, all the things are small, but it is going to be useful for you. So that's the team that we have. You know, the one champion that I have really going fast, of course, is Seducer, 235. I need him on a 4-3 ratio so he can use his skills. So having him at 235 should work. Now, I have a bunch of different versions of a 4-3 ratio on the website, and I do encourage you to go check that out. But keep in mind, the speed that you put your 4-3 champion at is going to really determine where he takes his double turn. The effects are going to be different for Ultra Nightmare as opposed to Nightmare. All that stuff's going to have a factor. The speed you have your other champions at is going to make a big difference. I have Grave Chill at 183 speed, for example, and because of that, she's actually going to be going at the top of the order. And I have that, so hopefully her decreased defense will be up for the majority of the fight. But I could do the same thing with Frozen Banshee, so her poison sensitivity is up before Grave Chill's Killer goes, for example. There's more than a few ways to set this up and make it work for you. If you have a cleanser like a Doom Priest or a Reliquary Tender, that would be a great spot for them to go in. That means they're going to go first. They'll be able to cleanse the stun so you don't have to worry about it. In those situations, you could bring in someone with just a 1-turn block debuff, have them go last in the turn order, and who's going to be cleansing it? Your Doom Priest, your your Reliquary Tender, whomever. So that's kind of what we got going on. I'm going to go through this really quick because I don't want to spend too much time on this. But you can see I have Bulwark here. Everybody's going to be in lifesteal gear. I did try to give Immortal to a few of them where I could. And you can see his total stats. I kept everything, I tried to keep it fairly low, but obviously he's a defensive champion. He's going to benefit from more defense. We got him up to 3,800, which is admittedly pretty high, but that's going to help him stay alive a lot longer. He should be taking the stun as well, and that should help a lot with that. At least that's the goal anyway. 172 accuracy is a little bit on the low side, but it's pretty good, I think, for this level of clan boss. Shouldn't be an issue. Seducer here, again, lifesteal gear. You know, similar kind of stats, 3,000 defense, 40,000 HP, 235 speed. Like I said, we do need him going fast, and plenty of accuracy for that decreased attack. I try to give everybody 100% crit rate just to make sure our damage is going to stay up, especially with lifesteal. We're going to benefit from that a lot, even if they're not dealing a ton of damage themselves. Grave Chill Killer is probably the weakest and probably will be the first to die at 3,000 defense, 35,000 HP. We got that 183 speed, like I said before, plenty of accuracy, way more accuracy than we need. We only need like 175 accuracy at the Nightmare level, but you know, I have the gear and it's kind of tough. 34,000 HP for Frozen Banshee, 3,200 defense, 177 speed. You can kind of see the stats going on right there for all of them. Cagebound, of course. This is the guy, I'm actually really excited about this one. I think he's kind of a cool champion. Try to give him more HP because he's placing that ally protection. Not enough. I definitely could put more on here. But again, I was trying to keep the gear limited on how much I was using. 3,300 defense is fine. 100% crit rate and 210 accuracy. Now you can see, I really only have like one piece of 6-star gear. Any of the accessories that are 6-star, except for this ring, they're not even rolled all the way to try and limit the amount of gear that I am putting on these champions. And you'll see that with every single one of them is kind of the same thing. Mastery wise, I went support and attack with Frozen Banshee here. Just try and extend the debuffs as she does land. Grave Chill Killer, I went defensive tree. I could go support tree with her as well. Seducer, I went support tree to try and get that, mostly actually because I already had it like this and it just works out fine for us. Bulwark, same kind of deal there. And yeah, that's what we're going to be using. Cagebound, I did go defensive tree. As an ally protection champ, I need them to survive, so defensive tree does do a lot as far as helping with that. But everybody's got that War Master, Giant Slayer proc, and the Lifesteal offensive mastery, so we can heal up a little bit more in addition to lifesteal gear. So that's what we're going to bring in. So let's see if this works or not. I don't even know, guys, so we'll see. Okay, so as far as setup goes, we are against Nightmare, so all of our champions should be going first in this team order. So one of the things I need to set up when Seducer is going to use his block debuff skill. So we're going to wait a little bit. We're going to start off with that decrease attack skill. Boom, get that out so we're not taking as much damage. That's important. We're actually going to start off with this A2, get us a little decreased defense. Now, if there's a poison up, that's going to be the big one. So that's going to make a big difference for us. So timing this stuff out is going to matter. I'm actually going to start with the A1 with Frozen Banshee, which maybe isn't the best way to go, but that's just how I'm going to begin this. And we'll see. Not having run this, I haven't had a chance to fully test out when the skill usage is going to be best. Now, Cagebound, we're going to try to have the ally protection up for the majority of the fight, which means for the AoE, so we're going to use it right here. Does give us an increased defense. Oh, it doesn't give us increased defense buff. That's my mistake, but that's okay. So we won't have that for the first AoE. Could be a little bit dangerous, but we shall see how it goes. A1 here with Grave Chill Killer. Try to put a little poison. Didn't get it. Now we're going to do the poison sensitivity right there. Get the HP burn going. Boom. And he heals up. We're going to get another decreased attack out there. Try and keep that up for the full fight is the goal. And then we're going to go ahead right here. Increase defense. Block debuffs for 2 turns, and we're going to be affinity friendly from this point on. Shouldn't take any more debuffs. And now we're going to go ahead and go with the A3 here with that poison sensitivity. We're going to get a nice big poison. It's great. Get some more big poisons, and we're going to wait. Oh, he's going to be using that pretty much every time here. That's fine. So that decreased attack, it's not going to help us for the stun, but it should carry over into that first AoE, and that'll keep us nice and neat. We just need to keep that up for the entire fight is the big thing. And then here we get a nice little shield. And we should be in pretty good shape. Okay, so there we go. We got poisons up, so we're going to get the big decreased defense. That should up our damage. At this point, I can click auto, but I just want to, make sure everything's working fine, quite frankly. There we go. Got the weaken up. That's good. You can see Bulwark actually does pretty significant damage, which is always really nice. Ally protection. All right, we still have that decreased attack up. Boom, get another poison going. There we go. Sensitivity goes up. And this is where, like, if Frozen Banshee went ahead of Grave Chill, maybe that would be good for us, but I'm not really concerned about it. Keep that HP burn working here. Get that decreased attack back on. Perfect. And here we go to give us the increased defense and block debuffs. And that's the team. So we can just click auto now and let it run. So, the goal here is we're going to try and survive as long as we can. We're going to try and let the poisons, the HP burn, do as much work as we can. One of the benefits of having a decreased defense champion or a weakened champion, having those debuffs on the clan boss, is when we land our debuffs from, or our damage from War Master or Giant Slayer, what ends up happening is those numbers actually increase based off of the enemy's defense and having those weakened debuffs on. So having those debuffs is going to increase our damage, even if our champions themselves don't do a lot of raw damage. It really magnifies the damage you get from your Giant Slayer procs, from your War Master procs. So it's really, really important to have that up as much as the fight as possible. And that's why we try to, time it so that we have at least those up for the AoEs and really benefit us as much as possible here. And you can see, it's turn 10, so we're not taking crazy damage yet, and that is just going to scale. But that ally protection does a lot for keeping us alive. The increased defense does a lot for keeping us alive. And so throughout the whole fight here, I'm hopeful that we're actually going to be doing a pretty good job. We have a full debuff bar pretty much right now. This is not a crazy team. It's all rare champions, and we're doing, what, about 500,000 per turn? It's a pretty good number as far as the damage output that we're getting. So obviously we'd have to last till turn 40 in order to get to that 2 key mark. We probably won't get there, but hopefully we can get pretty darn close. And I mean, for an all rare team, I think this is pretty impressive results. There's a couple of important things I do want to point out when it comes to building a team like this. First off, if you're using lifesteal gear, you're really dependent, unless your champions can do good raw damage, you're really dependent on landing that War Master proc for the healing, because you do heal based off of that as well. But it can be a little tricky, right? If you don't deal a lot of damage or the War Master proc doesn't happen, you're not going to heal up all the way, and that can definitely be problematic for the survivability of your team. So let's go ahead. I'm going to take myself off screen. You guys watch, enjoy the music, and we'll come back when it all ends. Okay, there you go. Almost 15 million damage. That's pretty good. It's definitely a 3 key on Nightmare, but we're using all rare champions. And you can see, I don't know if you could see, but I could really tell that Cagebound with his ally protection was helping the rest of the champions stay alive a lot longer. One of the benefits of that means that I can build Cagebound a lot tankier as opposed to the rest of the team, and that's only going to add to our survivability, which might be a really, really good option for a team like this. One of the things I might even consider doing is removing a champion like Bulwark, who does good damage for us, right? He did 3 million damage for us, but if I took a Bulwark out and I brought in somebody that could give us a more increased defense to help us survive longer, or even another ally protection, that could be really massive for the survivability of our team. A Michaelis might be a really good option there because we're getting most of our damage, as you can see, from Frozen Banshee and from Gravechill Killer. They're dealing poisons for us. And when you don't have champions that are actually doing raw damage, one of the best ways to do good damage is survive as long as possible and put up as many poison debuffs as you can. So that might be an even better way to go. Bring in a Michaelis or somebody else that does ally protection for us to help us stay alive, and or give us increased defense as another alternate way. Somebody like a Marked, for example, would be wonderful. And that might be an even better way to go about doing this and give us a lot more survivability and in turn give us more damage overall. But I mean, really, these are all rare champions. This is not a team that should even do close to this kind of damage on Nightmare, right? I know there are people out there with Epics and Legendaries in their squads that aren't doing this kind of damage. And one of the big things is having that synergy of team. You notice we almost filled up our debuff bar several times throughout that fight. You don't need a plethora of poison champions. You just need the right ones. In fact, we might even do better off if we take out Frozen Banshee and Gravechill Killer and bring in somebody like a Kale, who can probably do the job of keeping the poisons up for the full fight. May not do quite the same kind of damage, but that opens up another slot on our team where we could bring in somebody else that can help us survive a little bit longer. And in turn, we might be able to do more damage because of that. It's all dependent on the champions you have, right? And so this is why, and when you're talking about the early levels of Clan Boss, the champions you bring in actually does have a much bigger difference in the damage that you're going to do. When you get to the higher ends of Clan Boss and you have a more full account, the champions matter less than the gear that you're putting on them, because you can usually get good results out of most every champion if you give, but it's a gear dependent, it's less champion dependent. At the lower level, especially when you're talking about just rare champions, that is going to be a significant downgrade in the potential of your team. So at the lower levels, bringing in some better quality champions can definitely have a major impact on the result of your fight. As it is, I'm pretty happy with this result. I thought it was pretty darn cool. So there you go, guys. I know people are always asking me for some more free-to-play and early level kind of teams. I think this is a good option, right? This shows that you don't necessarily need all the amazing champions in the world to get a good result. Now, of course, if you have them, you should use them. So when I had Frozen Banshee and Gravechill Killer in that team, it's a quality result. But what would I like to do? I'd love to bring in Rosin instead of Gravechill Killer and take out not only Gravechill, but also take out Bulwark, because he's really doing the job of both of them, right? Decreased defense and a weaken. And then Frozen Banshee's great, but she's really good only if you have counterattack. If you don't, she's not going to put up that many poisons. So one of the things I'd love to do is replace her with even like an Occult Brawler. Now all of a sudden I'm taking 3 slots that I had and I'm using 2 champions for it. That's a huge difference. I have 1 more open slot there. I'd love to bring in as a Polker Sentinel instead of a Seducer. Does the exact same job for this type of team. Gives you a better decreased attack, so we're taking a lot less damage. Gives you a bigger increased defense buff, so you're taking a lot less damage, and still has that block debuff part of the kit. And then we had Cagebound. Cagebound's great. I love the ally protection. I love the ally protection. Decreased attack is cool, but if I can bring in those other champions, you know what I'd love to do instead of Cagebound? Freaking Skull Crusher. Let's get some counterattack on this team, right? And now I still have an open slot on my team, but I'm bringing all the debuffs, all the buffs that I had before, and so that last slot I can really pick and choose who I want. In fact, one of the things that really opens you up to is bringing someone that can bring a leech debuff. Now I don't even need lifesteal gear. And so that's how you can build a team with 5 champions, get all the things that you want out of it, and have a really good result. That can be really good for us. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about building these teams and having really, really good success. And I really encourage you to kind of experiment with that and kind of keep that in mind. That's why these 4-3 ratio teams, while they're very basic in their foundation and their build style, can be really, really effective for you. So this is one of those things where I'd say, go check out the website, go look at that. And, you know, it doesn't take, you don't have to mess with it a lot to get different results. You know, I have a bunch of different versions of it, and each one kind of tells you where you want that double turn to happen. You can use this for champions like Lightsworn, champions like Steel Skull, anyone going on a 4-3 ratio. Where you're going to want them to take their double turn is going to change based on the buffs or debuffs they bring. I spent enough time talking about this. I just wanted to kind of explain this one because it is a comp that I have kind of neglected in my explanation, and one that I think is incredibly valuable, especially in the early levels of Clan Boss where you're trying to speed tune your team and you don't have crazy speed gear. Maybe you can get one champion really fast, but not 4 or 5 of them. This is a great way to go about doing that and still maximizing the ability of your champion. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys. Again, I cannot encourage this enough. Hit that subscribe, hit that like, hit the notification bell so you know when the next one of these videos drops. Thanks for coming by, guys. Till next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.